And welcome back to this edition of the 2014 Campaign Roundtable Series. I'm politics reporter Rob-Rizzuto, and we are here with the 5 Democratic candidates running to represent the 1st Hampden-Hampshire District in the Massachusetts State Senate. Again, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks.
For the next question, we are actually going to kick it over to our expert panel. We have New England Public Radio's Henry Epp with the first question. Henry?
Thank you, Rob. So public transportation in your district and basically the entire Commonwealth west of Worcester is extremely limited, and the various regional transit authorities say that's due to a lack of funding from the state. As a state senator, how important is it to you to work to increase that funding and perhaps even work toward a high-speed rail link between Boston and Springfield?
So yes, this issue is, anyone who's traveled Massachusetts knows that when you go to Boston, you don't even need your car. You have fantastic public transportation options. Around here, not so much. There was a Mass Inc. study last year that showed the need for expanded public transportation opportunities as far as economic reasons, socioeconomic reasons. There's a myriad of different things that are presented as part of this. If elected, is this something that's important to you? And we'll just randomly start at the other end. Tom.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've lived in some big cities that had mass transit, and I thought it was a great opportunity. It's great in California. You can even bring your bike on the train with you and go off. So I'd like to see it happen. I think that the difficulty has always been getting the federal money, and so making the argument is going to be a difficult thing for a state senator because it is a federal program. But we have so many people in this area who commute down to Hartford, and so that north-south train is going to be pretty important. And we have a lot of people who would like to work in Boston and would like that commute, but right now they have to drive to Worcester. That's the closest place they can catch a train in. And the other thing, too, is it's, of course, sunrise, you get the sun in your eyes, sunset, you get the sun on your way back home. I used to do that commute. I consulted to a company called the Corporation for Business, Work, and Learning. And I think that people need to make a change. In Los Angeles, they set up a commuter rail. And when I was out there, people weren't really using it because they were still so used to using cars. And so, I think that it'll take a little time, but you look at some of the communities that, especially in our district, Wilbraham and Hampden, it takes them a long time to get into the city. And those are folks who would really get involved in city activities if they could get here easily. And, when I look at places like Boston, I think it would be nice if we had the same opportunities.
Gotcha. All right, Aaron.
So I sit on the PVTA advisory board here in town as Ludlow's representative, and I've seen firsthand the challenges that we have in mass transit locally, and they're inextricably tied to the waste in Boston. And when you think about the fact that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts bailed out the MBTA to the tune of $100 million, no strings attached, on top of the fact that the T already receives the largest state share of its operating budget, that's not the recipe for success. And that's not something I want to duplicate. On the ground here, we need forward funding. We need adequate funding to get people in Western Mass where they need to go. Now, we rely on our roads and our bridges and our buses for getting kids to school, for getting to work, for traveling, for getting goods from place to place. That's where my priority is when it comes to transportation. A train from Boston to Springfield would be great for Boston. I'm sure it would. But when we only have scarce dollars, we need to apply those in the way that's going to best help Western Mass residents. And that's investing in the PVTA, it's investing in our local roads and bridges.
Thank you very much. Tim.
Thanks, Rob. Good question. I see it as 2 or 3 different issues. One is the local PVTA issue, as Aaron just talked about. We need to make sure that many people which don't have cars, can't get around on their own, have better access to jobs, to services. If we're going to have true economic development, we need to make sure people can get where they're going. A second thing is relative to rail, is we have the north-south rail. Hartford up to Greenfield type of thing. And we need to make sure we're maximizing that and use that as a test case to see what kind of usage we're getting and whether it makes sense economically, as Aaron just referred to. Economically, we have limited dollars. High-speed rail sounds great, but let's see how we're doing on the north-south thing first. We also have Route 91 being redone. So that's another issue we need to maximize. The high-speed rail is a good idea, but the investments locally, I think, need to be stronger, so we make sure that before we invest in something that may not have a return, when dollars are as scarce as they are, when we've had the problems with people wondering about the Route 91 project, et cetera, and the amount of money in that, high-speed rail is going to cost way more than that, and we got to make sure we maximize the rail that we have, provide access to local people to get to jobs who can't afford a car to get to them now, and then worry about high-speed rail.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
All right, Chip.
Yeah.
Topic of public transportation here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, this is a perfect example of one of those inequities between Boston, Massachusetts, and Western Massachusetts. Not many people realize this. I found this out when as I was doing my research for the campaign, is that a portion of our sales tax goes to the MBTA. So whether you live outside of Worcester, outside of Springfield, or in Pittsfield, you're funding the MBTA from here. And it does absolutely nothing for us whatsoever. And the MBTA, as was mentioned earlier, needed a tremendous bailout. So they're not even being managed properly. So that's one significant issue that I think people in Western Massachusetts is one of those things that kind of puts the hair in the back of your neck standing up when you realize how much money that you're spending out here. The other component is as was mentioned, the PVTA and the importance of the PVTA. In Western Massachusetts, we're a bit more rural, and there are people that need public transportation to get to and from work, and it needs to be affordable. As a member of the Council on Aging, as a liaison to the Council on Aging in the town of Ludlow, I see it and how the senior population specifically relies on public transportation to get to and from, really just to and from appointments because there's no family around. So it really plays a real vital role in Western Massachusetts, even more so than it does out in Eastern Massachusetts. The issue of high-speed rail, there are so many other issues that take place that are more important right now. Like crime and drugs and education and the issues that we have here in the city of Springfield before we start investing our tax dollars into a high-speed rail. It's a nice goal to have down the road, but we've got significant issues that we need to address with tax dollars before we start investing in high-speed rail at this point. It's wonderful to be able to say we have a high-speed rail and we can pat ourselves in the back like other communities, states have, but the reality is we have more issues to deal with right now before we talk about high-speed rail.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Chip. Eric, topic of transportation, high-speed rail possibilities. Talk a little bit about this. Where do you come down?
Absolutely. Well, Henry, thanks for bringing up the topic of high-speed rail. This is an issue I've been campaigning on aggressively since I announced my campaign in February. You know, we have a very big challenge facing Western Massachusetts. UMass just came out with a study that said 28,000 people are going to move out of Greater Springfield. Our population is going to decrease by 28,000 people in the next 15 years. Just the next 15 years. That's 28,000 less people shopping in our stores, starting their own businesses, contributing to our economy. We have a big challenge ahead, which is middle-class opportunity is shrinking in our area. Meanwhile, the economies just to our east and just to our south are booming. You can't walk around in Boston without hitting a construction crane. We need to get that growth out here. We need to make sure that that growth is shared. The way we do that is with a high-speed rail link to better connect ourselves to the growing economies all around us. And it's attainable. It's achievable. The rail link already exists. It's owned by a freight company right now. The state of Massachusetts, the state, not the federal government, the state of Massachusetts bought the rights to the rail link from Boston to Worcester. There are now 15 trains a day that go between Boston and Worcester. It's transformed the economy in Worcester. But they stopped in Worcester. Why did they stop in Worcester? Because it's part of a political culture that continually leaves Western Mass out and leaves Western Mass behind. That will change if I'm in the state Senate. I'm going to say, let's extend that train from Worcester out to Springfield. Let's have it come to Springfield, bring that prosperity, bring that growth out to us too. It is achievable, and we can do it, and we can do it in a cost-effective way, especially when the state is spending $1 billion to expand the Green Line in Somerville 4 miles. If they're spending $1 billion on a 4-mile extension of a subway line, they can spend a little money to help transform our economy here in Western Mass and give us a shot too.
Gotcha. So we have everybody seeing public transportation is a very important issue, but different degrees of emphasis put on different facets of it. Gentlemen, thank you very much for articulating your views on that. We appreciate it. We are going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a few moments.